Yes, Mr. Snow, you're all set.
Thank you, Seth. Have a nice evening. Thank you. All right. So welcome to October 16th meeting of the Scituate Conservation Commission. Just a couple of quick things to read. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with our open meeting law. That's the first one. And the town of Scituate, Mass. Commitment Statement to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. And we ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and support and respect our community. Thank you. I have agenda for this evening. Does anybody have any additions, changes, omissions to our agenda?
I do.
Penny?
Yes, I would just like to have a little discussion at the end of the meeting about 126 Turner Road. The orders haven't gone out yet, and I have some suggestions I'd like to discuss with the board. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and I don't think I have anything I want to do tonight. I guess the goal here is to probably move this meeting along as quickly as possible, making sure that we take in all the information we're supposed to. So let's see, our first one is 22.
We got to accept the agenda, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda with the add-on I just gave you.
Thank you, Penny. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Great, thanks, Brendan. All in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great, thanks. Okay. So 22 Oceanside Drive,
Yeah, I'll make a
Um,
motion.
That's open.
and they're asking to continue till January 9th.
Yes,
Okay, you want to make that motion?
yes, I make a motion, we continue 22 Oceanside Drive, 151 Turner Road to January 9th, 2023. Ooh,
I'll second that.
All in favor? Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes, thank you. 33 New Driftway /7 McDonald Terrace. This was continued from 9/7, and the applicant's requesting that we continue that until December 5th of 22.
I make a motion, we continue 33 New Driftway, 7 McDonald Terrace to December 5th, 2022.
And that's, I was second on that.
Second, Andy.
Jump
Second
in.
from Andy. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes, great. So C is 3A utility project, Town of Scituate. Applicants, the Town of Scituate, reps the LEC. And who do we have on for that one? Go, got to open it. Thanks,
Yep.
Jen. Sorry. On October 17th, at 6 p.m. the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application the Town of Scituate for work related to replacing a water main, installing fiber optic line and associated utility improvements, a location west side of Chief Justice Cushing Highway. Scituate abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available in the agenda posted on the town website. Okay. And who do we have?
Mark Manganello with LEC Environmental Consultants.
Hey, Mark.
How are you doing? Good to see
Good.
you
How
all.
are you? Good to see you.
Good, thanks. I'd like
Yeah,
to share
Mark.
my screen if I could.
We have it up already, Mark, I think.
Oh, you got it up. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So this project is the Route 3A Utility Improvements Project, as you said. It's just over a mile long stretch from the rotary on Route 3A up to a point just south of Doctors Hill Road. There is a graphic in the notice of intent that shows the stretch on an aerial photo. There are wetlands along this stretch of Route 3A. There's bordering vegetated wetland, there's isolated vegetated wetland, there's a perennial stream with riverfront area, and there is bank associated with Tack Factory Pond and bordering land subject to flooding associated with Tack Factory Pond. There's three real sort of components of the project. There is existing water main replacement. There is a new raw water main to be installed. And then there's a new fiber optic line. The water mains will be constructed in the same trench. Fiber optic line is separate, as you can see on the plan. The trench will be about 6 feet wide and between 7.5 and 10 feet deep for the water mains. And there will be some lateral pipelines and service lines extending from it, which will be in a smaller trench, slightly shallower, only about 4 feet wide. And you can see these on the graphic, the plan that's shown in front of you, showing the approximate location of the pipelines and some of the lateral service lines. The work will be done in 50-foot segments. So the material will be excavated for the trench in 50-foot segments. The work will be completed and then it will be backfilled to minimize the disturbance over an extended period of time. The disturbances in terms of resource areas are really limited to buffer zone and a bit of BLSF. So there are several places where the project involves disturbance in the buffer zone for a total footprint of buffer zone disturbance of about 27,800 square feet. And then there's about 3,850 square feet of BLSF disturbance near Tack Factory Pond. But all the disturbance associated with the project is confined to the existing roadway or shoulders and will be returned to similar conditions post-construction. So there shouldn't be any negative impacts to any wetland resource areas or buffer zones resulting from the project. And this project, I should say, is associated with the future water treatment project located on the property on Doctors Hill Road. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear as well. And that's really an overview of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Penny, you want to go first?
No, I don't have any questions. Just Mark, the water treatment plant will be across the street from Doctors Hill.
That's right, and that will require a separate notice.
It's on the other side. No, I think it looks good. And I'm glad you're doing it in small segments because 3A is well traveled.
Yeah, and I should say I had some dialogue with Amy, and she pointed out that you require compost silt socks along the project route, and I would think we should have straw wattle, so we would expect that to be a condition if we get to that point.
Okay.
Okay. Andy?
That answered all my questions. I'm good.
Okay. Brendan?
I don't have any additional questions.
Richard?
Tell me a little bit about the stone wall planter that is along a good part of the road that I see here.
I'm sorry, the what?
Stone wall planter.
Oh, is that something that shows up on the survey? Oh yeah, I see it there.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what
I
that
thought-
is. I
Uh,
believe there are remnants. I recall there being remnants of a stone wall along that area, but I'm not sure what.
well, I guess my question would be, is that going to be new? Is that going to be repaired, or is that just there?
Oh, that's just there. That's an existing condition. Actually, I think that's not a stone wall. That is a planter that's at that driveway entrance. I think that's at the corner of the entrance to the water treatment plant and the baseball field, which is next to it. That's just an existing condition with a sign.
All right. And the silt sock answered that question. So no, that's all I had for the moment.
Okay, Amy, I should have asked you first. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, so. Actually, so Mark, one of the questions I had was, you guys had sent some language about a limited project. Is this checking the box of a limited project at this point?
Yeah, that was suggested to us by Mass DOT when we ran this by them. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think this needs to be filed as a limited project just because it doesn't exceed any of the, the thresholds in the Wetlands Protection Act. I
Mhm.
think it's permittable without that, but
Yeah,
it does meet the definition of that particular limited project for roadway related infrastructure work.
okay, well, I was reviewing this also with a colleague of mine at DEP who was suggesting this roadway project, yeah, as a utility project, be exempt under 310 CMR 10.22A2.
Yeah,
So just considering that also, but anyways, the two comments I think of substance that I have, I guess, is the mulch sock comment, and then would hope that there'll be an environmental monitor on site, monitoring conditions, making sure that, on rainy days, there's not silt going into the resource areas. Happy that it's a segment, project that's with BMPs and working in 50-foot segments, and that it's confined to the existing roadway. So should be minimal impact for sure. So all in all, I would say I'm good. And I think it's probably pretty much legitimately exempt anyways.
yeah. The only reason I didn't pursue the exemption is that the exemption doesn't include direct disturbances to resource areas, and because we have some BLSF disturbance, I didn't think we met the exemption criteria.
Better to be safe than sorry, right? So
That's it.
yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Do we have anybody in the audience for this one? Pat has her hand up.
I just unmuted. Pat, you're on.
Okay, thank you.
And just do it for the record, your name and address, please.
Sure. Patricia Butler, 439 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Good evening.
Good evening. I just have one question. Do I understand that the new pipeline the water main is going up on the other side of 3A from me, up to Doctor's Hill, below Doctor's Hill?
So, Mark, Pat's house is on the west side of 3A. So I think she's wondering in her location where the water main is. I'm just trying to look myself real quick.
I mean, from the plans, it's sort of centrally located
Oh,
in the roadway, I would say. And perhaps, I know Will from Woodard and Curran is on the call here as well, who might have some more detailed information about the location, but I'm just looking at the drawing in front of us and it appears to be more or less central.
Like in the center of 3A?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it does shift from side to side a little, Pat. I'm just trying to find your location.
Yeah.
So her home is close to across from the Lutheran church, downhill from that, right on the pond. She's right on the
That's
Tech
right.
Factory pond.
3, oh, okay. I'm getting there.
So I'm trying to figure out which section.
So this is Steve Rafferty. I'm the owner's project manager for the town.
Hey, Steve. Is Steve on? He must be unmuted.
Of Scituate. Pat, this have to connect
Kind of cutting in and out, Steve.
back to your house.
We missed a lot of that, Steve. Sorry.
Sorry, I'll try again.
It's got a bad connection. I think I found the spot, though. This is the first.
The
house
water
we
main,
have
Pat, will be
passed.
pretty much in the middle of the road as we come by your house.
Okay.
I think that
Okay.
answers the question. That was.
Pat, do you have
The
any
new water
other?
main that in your house onto the new water.
No, I don't, Frank. I thought it was gonna be I read that it was westerly. I thought it was gonna be like right in front of my house.
Well, it's in front of it, but it's not. It's not in the shoulder. If that's
Okay.
there is
yeah.
a direct burial fiber optic cable, though. I'm wondering what side that's on. Can you see that, Mark?
Yeah, that's on the other side. That's on the easterly side.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So is this project going to be overseen by the town engineers as usual, or is it being overseen by Woodward and Curran? It looks like
We'll
they might.
have a resident project inspector on the job.
Okay, so that resident inspector should do a pre-con with our agent, which is pretty typical.
Absolutely.
And this isn't anything to do with the pipe that's going to draw from the reservoir, correct? This is just a line between the current water treatment plant and the proposed new location. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
I see this Will is on from Woodward and Curran. I
Correct.
don't know if he's
Correct.
Yeah, that is correct. It connects to the existing pump station.
okay. Great. Is there going to be a resurfacing of 3A when it's done, or is it a cut and patch? Do you know?
DOT has requested a full width overlay,
Okay,
mail and overlay, excuse me.
got it.
So yes, total resurfacing.
Okay, so there is about a lot of work, and it is near, obviously, the reservoirs, and so the erosion control is probably key to our concerns. And then, do you have any idea where the contractor might be using for a staging area? I didn't see any of that.
Not at this time.
All right.
Not along the roadway.
Right. Well, sometimes the staging areas wind up, so it'd be good for us to know that sometimes they wind up in jurisdiction as well, which is not a big deal as long as they're managed. Okay.
Frank, excuse me?
Yeah.
Do we have a time frame for when this might happen?
Looking like next spring.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that'll mess up the commute, Richard.
Not in the area I go every day, no.
You just go to Greenbush.
Oh,
Right.
man.
Yep, that's right.
All right.
Okay.
Pat has her hand up again. Can we grab Pat Butler?
Pat, you're on.
Okay, thank you. And once you start it in the spring, how long do you think it'll take to complete the project?
2 weeks.
Seriously?
So we tell everybody, Pat. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Go ahead.
Probably most of the nice weather, about 4 to 6 months. And then it may be required that the trenches will need to settle, so the full resurfacing may not occur until the spring of 2024. So the pipe will go in next year, and then the resurfacing will likely be the following year.
Okay.
Start a
you.
lemonade stand, Pat. You'll make a fortune out there.
Oh my God, there'd be a lot of traffic, right? I mean, will they shut down 3A at all, do you
No,
think?
no.
Okay,
Well, it'll make for some
It'll be congested.
yeah.
busy times. Maybe it'll slow it down a little bit.
That'd be good.
Okay,
Okay. can I
Um,
close?
I think I'd take a motion to close.
I make a motion to close.
I'll second that.
It's Richard.
Yep.
All in favor, Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening. So now we are on to
Seven New Driftway, I think.
and we should have someone from Mackenzie, maybe.
Yeah, Eric Shoemaker
that's me.
is on, yep. Art Allen is also on from our team, and Brad Holmes is on the call if necessary.
Okay.
But we've talked about this quite a
Numerous.
bit, so I'm not sure Eric really has much to say at this point either, to tell you the truth, or Art, because we've met about this project quite a bit. We were just waiting for the planning board to close in on the stormwater review and get the final tweaking done on some of the final considerations that they had for the stormwater review. And that has been done. So Eric, you can explain that, but I don't think we have a lot to talk about here. It's really, we're just here to close and talk about some conditions if you want to talk about conditions.
Okay.
Yes, so Eric Shoemaker, Mackenzie Engineering. I'm here with Brad Holmes, our wetland scientist, as well as I believe Frank Polak, our client. So I just want to provide an update on the project. So you'll see on the next page, sheet C1, the proposed site layout plan. Just to catch up the commission members with the changes that we've made. I believe this is an older plan, but the changes include level spreaders, which were added to the outlet pipes coming from the rain garden, as well as the roof runoff. And like I said, this is an older plan set, but the peer review engineer also wanted that loading space to be 30 feet in length to accommodate a box truck, so that 18-foot striped loading space you see in the westerly portion of the parking lot, that was just extended to another 10 feet into the landscape area adjacent to the patio to accommodate that turning movement. So those were the latest revisions to the plan, really, and we'll answer any questions and help out with the discussion with the commission members.
Okay. This is going on a while. I don't know, Amy, are you ready to comment? I think Jen was trying to.
Yeah, so my comments are that we've been good with this project for a while. We were just waiting for the stormwater to meet muster with John Chessier's review for the stormwater, and it has, and it's finally all the tweaks were tweaked, and planning board is getting ready to I think get a special permit for this project, although it's my understanding that they have not at this point yet done that, but they're quite close, which is great news. So we're, we would be good to endorse the latest site plans, which we have reviewed, in which Art Allen has also reviewed. The actual the planting plans that we've reviewed were that, they haven't changed for quite some time now, since the summertime. So and those were plans that Brad Holmes had prepared that Art reviewed. I'm not sure what the date was, but it's probably like back in July or something like that. So we've met about those changes, we've talked about them, and I think we're good to close.
Okay. So hearing that, Richard, do you want to?
Well,
Maybe-
my only confusion is not having an up-to-date plan in front of me. I will take people's word that it's good, but I'd love to see one.
So I did submit an updated plan. It was dated September 9th, 2022, and I delivered that to the town hall as well as provided digital copies.
Mhm.
So I do understand this is an older plan, but the commission should have the latest plan on record.
Yep, I have it.
We absolutely do have it, Eric.
Okay.
Mm.
I'm good. I'm good then, Frank.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, I just, I'm fine with everything. I would just like to ask this lovely picture of the lovely building. Is that what it's gonna look like? I'm hoping.
So that was our architectural rendering, and
Yeah.
that is what it will look like. I believe the only difference is there's going to be handrails and that ramp leading up to the front stairs.
The only reason I'm asking this is we had another project down the road on 3A, which was supposed to look something like this. Well, it ain't looking like it at all. So I would love to see this go through. Thank you.
Okay. Andy?
No, I don't think anything new has come up for me, so I'm good.
Okay. Brendan?
I have no additional comments.
Do we have anybody in the audience? So these projects go on for so long.
Seeing nobody, Frank.
Amy, just a question on this, like, so who will be monitoring this? It's a good sized project. I know with the other projects, there's usually an engineer or something like that. Are they funding someone that we're gonna have reviewing this project? Or keeping an eye on it? How does that work?
Well, that's actually an excellent point, Frank. But we could condition to have an environmental monitor at certain stages at this point, for key stages on some of the bank work.
Well, I'm
Um,
wondering if we can coordinate that with the planning board.
Well, for the stormwater, that stormwater permit is incorporated into our orders. The review is coordinated with the planning board special permit too. The oversight is definitely wrapped into like the oversight of the installation and the construction monitoring. There will be oversight by that engineer during the construction for sure.
When you say that engineer, meaning our review engineer or
The town's review engineer,
all right.
correct?
I mean, it's right against the brook.
Right.
There's very
But so-
little.
What I was suggesting is, since part of this is updating that brook system, that it might make sense at key milestones to have Ecotech also work at, or at least overview some of the work that Brad Holmes is going to be doing for the restoration of the First Herring Brook area.
Okay.
So an environmental monitoring component, which is separate from the stormwater management and construction.
All right. And do we need any bonds for any of that work?
I don't know about that.
Well, I think it's something we should look at before we write the orders and see if this project is contingent on those things being done. It might be good to have some sort of value to that work and to make sure that it gets done.
Sounds good.
Um,
Take a look at that.
but I am just concerned with the proximity to this, that, you know, that you look at it, but, we know that there's an awful lot of work going on. Same for the planning board. So, getting things like letters that erosion controls in place when the construction started. We know from other large projects in town, they're not without issues. People are trying to move ahead, weather conditions, all that sort of thing. So just want to be sure that we've got adequate review in place. So maybe we can figure out how that ought to work in, or the applicant can weigh in with that as well.
Yeah, so I'll take a look at some other similar projects and we can talk about some conditions for that.
Okay.
If I could, through the chair, this is Art Allen.
Hi, Art.
Hey, how you doing?
Sure.
Just a suggestion, probably the two components that are most kind of environmentally sensitive, critical on this are the bank stabilization work on First Herring Brook, and then there's quite a bit of extensive restoration planting that, you want to have some guarantee that those things are gonna, be done correctly and then kind of persist in the long term and the plantings taken things. So in terms of, monitoring, bonding, those are probably the two biggest aspects from my perspective.
Okay. Well, maybe between us, we can come up with something and get that to the applicant. So we can get that rolled into these orders.
Great.
Anybody else?
Nope,
Okay.
gonna close it.
I'm okay with that. If you think, Amy, can we write those things into the orders?
Yes,
Okay,
I mean, how close is the planning board, do you think, to finalizing there?
I think that they are within a month of getting ready, a month or a month and a half or something like that, maybe.
All right,
Eric,
so
you can probably, what agenda you're on. I'm not sure what the date is.
So we met last week. I believe we're on the next agenda. So the planning board took a vote on some of the relief needed from the zoning bylaw, and I believe a draft decision was being reviewed.
So
Well, I
what's
guess-
their next agenda date that you're on?
I don't have that. Actually, hold on a second.
Amy, I guess my point is,
It's the
Are we-
27th.
okay, are we better served closing or getting the rest of that bonding sort of stuff hammered out?
Well, no, I think you can close because we're not going to be looking for additional information. You have all the information you need. Now it's just a matter of getting orders. And since you're talking about the fact that you're going to be looking for an environmental monitor during certain key milestones and for bonding to guarantee that certain critical steps occur, the expectation will probably, I would imagine, would be from the applicant that there will be conditions regarding such.
Okay,
so
all right.
I will make a motion to close.
Got a motion from Penny. Do we have a second?
I will, but with conditions as discussed.
Thank you, Richard.
You're so good, Richard.
Sometimes.
A second. All in favor, Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you. All right. 19 Wood Island Road. Someone from Cavanero.
We have Caroline on from Cavanero for this project. So Frank, this project is a continued project also, so continued from September 26th. which was continued from a date in the summer. While we've gone back around, tweaking certain things of this project. This project also has a landscape architect. I'm going to unmute Sean Papich. It's like Sean's on the call. And Art Allen from Ecotech is your peer review, and he's also on the call here. So we'll have Caroline just review what has been done since we last met.
Okay,
Okay.
hi everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Good evening.
Good evening. Just for the record, my name's Caroline Reese, an engineer at Carbonaro Consulting, or now Merrill Engineers. I'm representing the homeowner and applicant, Ted Goff, for an NOI for improvements to a single family home. And I believe Ted may be on the call and may want to participate, at least in the discussion.
Okay.
So Ted, maybe raise your hand or let us know. But
Sure.
I don't know if you recall this project that we presented August 1st. At the time we originally presented, there was a comment from the peer reviewer to revise some of the wetland flags or relook at them. And we had not had time to do that. But we did present in August and we're able to get some feedback from the commission. And we've tried to address as best as possible the concerns about work in the 50. So the plan before you is the revised plan. When we did reflag the wetlands, they did encroach on the developed property more, maybe say. Now 75% of the lot is within the 50-foot buffer, which is that first thicker green line. And pretty much the entire lot's within the 100-foot buffer. So if you can see right over the road is the 100-foot buffer. So the area we had to work with outside the 50 decreased. So we really did try to use this time to take some careful consideration in what the applicant really wanted, what he needed, and where we could make concessions. And as a result, for all the work within the 50, I believe Amy or the peer reviewer Art requested that we do a variance. So I hope you received a copy of the itemized variance for all the work that's now proposed within the 50. I can go through them quickly. The main thing is they propose to remove and rebuild a garage that's on the towards the bottom of the page. If you recall, the proposed garage would be attached to the house only by the second story. And the garage, as it's proposed and with the new wetlands, still results in an increase in impervious area within the 50 of 127 square feet. However, as it's positioned now, a car does not have to drive within the 50. The current garage at an angle, cars would be driving within the 50. And most of the proposed garage is over the existing gravel driveway or the existing garage. We did increase the mitigation plantings just south of the garage to 900 square feet and made a long strip just on the south. That's pretty much the south side of the garage as a concession. And we did add a gravel trench on the rear side, and what I'd say is maybe the east side, the southeast, because there are not roof leaders on the garage. So those trenches would collect runoff from the roof. Another thing we did as concessions, we reduced and changed the auto court in front. It was originally proposed as a 1,900 square foot paved auto court. It is out of the 50, but we reduced it to a 1,300 square foot gravel auto court with just some granite slabs around it to contain the gravel. And we have that reduced inside, so it lies completely outside of that 50-foot buffer. The driveway approach is on top of the existing approach, which is tough to see in a light gray line, the existing, but it is narrow to pretty much what we feel is a reasonable width. So the existing gravel driveway will be reduced in width and in size to approach the auto court. So another feature the client was really interested in keeping was that patio on, it's towards the top, right under the lot area, I didn't call the patio. That's completely over ledge. It's built on top and over ledge. I think maybe Sean can speak to the construction more, but it did encroach in the 50-foot buffer before. Now that the buffer has been narrowed, if you will, a little still does encroach, but we did reduce the size over 50% from 530 square feet to 230 square feet. And we also shifted it, if you can see, it's as close to those existing stone stairs as they really can be. And it's positioned to sit over that existing ledge. So it's not adding impervious, it is adding a feature, but it will be designed where weep holes, and so drainage, it won't disrupt the drainage pattern significantly. But it is a feature that the client really hopes to keep. And with that, there are mitigation plantings. We increase those to 130 square feet between the where it impinges on the 50-foot buffer and the salt marsh. The front landing, we tightened up some of those stepping stones, or shrunk the side and really pretty much placed them over the existing ones. The front landing and stepping stones result in an increase in impervious area of just 10 square feet, just to get it to meet the existing driveway. And again, with the revised wetland line, we have a few more things, both the existing and proposed amount increased within the 50, but we do propose just in front of them another 230 square feet of mitigation plantings, or 260 square feet of mitigation plantings just on that slope in front of the stepping stones, in front of the front stepping stones, front lot. I'm sorry, there's stepping stones in front and back, I should clarify. I'm talking about the ones in front. In the rear, there were more. We just tightened them up. There are very few that lie outside of the 50 on the rear of the house. And conservatively, maybe 70 square feet. I don't even think that, mostly over ledge. But those, we feel they provide a defined path for travel to that staircase and to that back deck area. So we moved them out of the 50 as much as possible. That may have covered it. We shorted some of the, we reduced the size of some of the hardscape features around the approach to the driveway to try to get as much as possible out of the 50, but we did lose some area. And everything, as I said, that lies within the 50 is addressed in a variance request, an itemized variance request. And I think that kind of covers it. Any questions at this point, or Sean or Ted, would you like to add to that?
This is Sean Papich of Sean Papich Landscape Architecture, 222 North Street, Hingham.
Sean,
You actually, it seemed like you covered everything there. You hit all the other pieces, I think, on our landscape plan, which you should have in your package. Also illustrates the enlarged areas of mitigation plantings, reduced size of the terrace that just kind of sneaks over the 50 there, sitting on top of ledge.
Mm-hmm.
Between that and the changes to the driveway surface, a pretty substantial difference in what it was early in, or should I say late summer, I guess. So I don't know if I need to add anything right now unless you have some questions.
Oh, I could add one more thing. The driveway, by narrowing the driveway itself, not the auto court, because the wetlands again tightened, we've actually reduced the amount of the driveway within the 50-foot buffer. It is a gravel driveway, but we did decrease that footprint and propose plantings that we didn't even count as mitigation plantings, but I think, Sean, they will be native plantings on either side to provide a buffer between the resource area and the driveway approach. It's pretty narrow, and I don't think we could get much more, but.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sean, you're all set for the moment? Great. We'll see what we have for questions from commission. Amy, do you want to add anything first?
Well, no, I mean, I have Art on the call, so maybe we'll just have a couple short comments from Art. He can tell you what he has to say.
Okay.
Yep. Good evening, Art Allen from Ecotech, peer review consultant for the commission. Yeah, I was out on the site back in the summer with Amy. Noted the issues with the wetland delineation, which made comments at the time about that and the proposed encroachments. All those revisions and updates to the wetland flags were made as requested. And as noted, that it actually increased their, basically increased the amount of buffer on the site, which put them a little behind the 8 ball, but they stepped up and made the reductions in that work in the 50-foot buffer that we discussed. They've requested the waivers. The amount of mitigation plantings they're proposing exceed the footprint of the proposed encroachments. I believe they meet the land subject to coastal storm flowage requirements. I mean, the building expansions are all up out of the flood zone. They're proposing flood vents for the new garage, which actually is an improvement because the existing garage doesn't have any flood components to it. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think, in my opinion, they've met the requirements for the waiver for work in the 50-foot buffer. They formally requested it and itemized it. But given that's an existing site, I think they've, potentially this project is actually going to result in a net improvement over existing conditions, and I'm comfortable with it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Okay. So, Andy, you want to go first on this one? Do you have any recollection of everything?
Yeah.
Parts of it?
I guess my first question, is administrative. So last time we had, I think, identified that screen porch was put in without approval. So I guess I'm wondering, are we considering that as part of this application? Is that in the increase in impervious, or how is that screen porch being considered for us administratively, since it shouldn't be there, I guess, is my question. I don't know if that's or I guess I'm unclear on how we're handling that part of it.
Is that to me?
I guess Amy, or Frank.
Amy, you're I see Mr. Goff's got his hand up, and we'll get to you in a minute. Let's just maybe either Amy or Art, do you have a thought on that?
Where is it?
I mean, myself, I wasn't privy to those discussions about the porch. I didn't realize there was something there that wasn't permitted. I don't know how that came up, but it wasn't through me.
Yeah, that was at the first hearing.
Yeah, so this was just, it came up during discussions at the first hearing. And so and I'm not clear on the story on the screen porch either, to tell you the truth, Andy.
Okay. I mean, because in the 9 years ago, it was definitely on the plan as open deck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I'll put that up. Maybe we can discuss that.
Yep.
Figure out how we want to handle that. I mean, overall, I think my feelings are similar to the first hearing. I think, these projects have a tendency to creep, and this is a good example of that, where it was conditioned 9 years ago in the 50, and now when you get to the edge of the 50, then people want to go into the 50, and that's what we have here. So I'm okay with the garage. Personally, I think that's okay, but extending the deck into the 50, the patio in the 50, the stepping stones in the 50, I'm not inclined to support that. Because I think we have to kind of at some point hold the 50, so that we don't keep getting further and further pushes. But that's where I am.
Okay.
Could I clarify?
Sure.
I'm sorry, it's hard to see on this drawing, but basically just for the front landing and the stepping stones are the same size, just a different shape of what's existing. And we did place them, you can kind of see pretty much right on top of the existing. It's just gonna be a new stone. Just to reach the driveway, because we shrunk it, there's an increase of 10 square feet in that length, but they're placed right over the existing. They're no closer to the wetland than the existing stepping stones for the front.
Yep.
The back is simply to provide a set path, walking path, but that's, I can understand.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't clear. I'm okay with the front because those are
Okay.
the new path in the back in the 50, where it's in the 50.
I think
It's about 4.5 stones, I think, that we show out. 5 or 6 as you go up the ledge, that's correct.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, there's just 4, I believe, but
I'm trying to pull up an existing plan to kind of, but I think Andy's point is that these projects just continue to grow in these sensitive areas, and we know that they were built there before some of these regulations, but and the applicant has a place as opposed to a new construction where we'd be looking at this right from the start. So and I guess from the commission standpoint, are they comfortable with these expansions, and is there adequate mitigation for that? Or should it just, is it more than should go onto that site? Sort of how I look at these things, but let's go through the other members. So
I'm sorry, could I add one more? Just the overall increase in impervious area within the 50 is, I believe it's just under around 300 square feet, everything of impervious area. But there's about 1,200 square feet of mitigation plantings. They're dispersed, but it is a tricky area to work with outside of the 50. It just, from what's there, and so we tried to propose plantings.
I think the biggest one that shows probably clearly is the proposed patio on the front of the house, is quite a bit more in the 50 than anything that was there before. If I'm getting that right, I'm just trying to find
There's 34 square feet within the 50. The patio towards the top of the page, I'd call that the on the side of the house beyond the deck.
Yes.
Yeah, it does encroach a little. I think it's 34 square feet. And I think maybe Sean can speak to it. It's encroaching just based on layout and construction, the way it can attach to but it's all over existing ledge. But you're correct, it is an increase.
It is sitting over the top of existing ledge, and so that little corner piece, I think, is what we're talking about, where it comes just up of the existing deck, which we reduced down. We felt because it's existing ledge, given the amount of mitigation that we're doing throughout the site, that it's really how they're using that property anyway. So that area is a piece of ledge. We're just trying to get it to where they're doing it in a more level setting. So it's really how that property is being used. Those existing steps that are kind of shooting off at an angle, those have been there for a bunch of years, I think. And we're trying to stay away from that area, although we could rework all that. We were trying to avoid that and respect the rest of that 50 there. We thought that that was, a decent place to be able to just put stone over the top of stone that's more level. Given it's not an increase of impervious. I do think with resetting of the wetland delineation, that certainly looked us a little bit and contributed to us having to squeeze these things down even a little more. So we did try to do it in every way, I think you can tell. Again, the mitigation plantings are really substantial, and as an overall, to Art's point, I think it's a net positive impact on the site itself. And when you have these oddly configured sites and constantly evolving sites, we feel like that's probably what our main goal is, rather than to say, okay, 50 feet on a sheet of paper is more important than what's in the field. I think it's more important to understand what is in the field, and it might be important to even have more of a buffer in other situations, and less when it's sitting on top of ledge. That's all.
Okay. Andy, do you want to anything else before we move to another member?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I think
We can circle around.
Yeah, I mean, from the impervious surface standpoint, the stormwater, I'm okay. It's more for me, it's the wetland resource. And I think we're getting a little confused because things are being presented as reductions that are actually, it's like the patios, it doesn't exist, right? So it's not being reduced. It was reduced from a grander plan.
Reduced from what we originally presented.
Right. But I guess I'm considering this from what exists, not from the sort of grander plan that was brought forward, right? So, okay, that's it.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, I think Andy makes some really good points, especially the fact that it's the reductions are from the original plan, not from what's existing. That's, I think, a very significant point. I'm glad he brought it up. On the other side of it, I do see the considerable adjustments in mitigation that have been proposed. For the moment, I don't have any real technical questions, but I do think we have to consider the existing porches Andy mentioned and keep in mind that this is reduced from the original plan, not from what's there.
Okay. Penny?
Right from the get-go, the original plan, yes, it was huge. It was ridiculously in the 50-foot, and I was extremely concerned, along with Andy and some of the others, of the inching into the 50-foot buffer. They have made an effort, and I applaud them for that, because too many people don't make an effort to try and work with us. The stepping stones that are in the 50, there's only 4 of them. I actually, Andy, I think I prefer to have the stepping stones than just have people traipsing. At least they have a path, and it isn't, 20 stepping stones in the 50. So I'm kind of okay with that. And I hear you. I would prefer nothing. I'm like up and down here. They did what we asked them to. They made it much smaller. It's all like half the size that patio there. They are trying to work with us, and I'd like to try and work with them. Yes, they have 30 feet into that. And I hear you, because I don't like people inching. But on the other hand, I do think we got a lot of mitigation, and I take my hat off that they really took to heart what we said at the last meeting about the encroachments going on, because it was, the original plan was ridiculous in my estimation. So I'm pleased with this one. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Penny. Brendan?
Yes, I kind of shared a lot of the sentiments of the other members. Stepping stones, I'm torn, honestly. So that patio, I mean, it is encroaching, but progress has been made, I guess, since it's over ledge. I'm not as concerned about that as the question I am concerned about, like I am interested in is the existing porch, that's been screened in. And then also there's some other plantings here, which I think they seem to be in the 50, and it says plantings to supplement existing plantings. Are those mitigation areas, or what's being planted there and along the driveway as well?
So the areas, if you're, well, certainly the ones that are clearly marked out for the 900 square feet and the other 130 square feet are over by the proposed terrace and by the new garage. We had other areas that we were going to plant that technically weren't really mitigation plantings yet, but they if planted or when they're planted will be falling in with the same plant list that we have already. So those are right along the driveway on both sides.
Okay, yeah, I don't have anything else really.
May I jump back in?
Sure.
My colleague Brendan Sullivan has been around longer, did say what he recalls of the porch, that it was permitted, but it was mislabeled on the COC in 2016. But that's something we could look into more, but he did say that porch was permitted.
As a screened-in porch.
As a roof, I guess. I'm not sure about
Okay.
the screens on the side, but that's the coverage.
Well, the roof is what the
So
concern.
what counts, but he did say
Yeah.
there was a permit for that. The COC was filed in 2016. But that the order of conditions, I think he said, just, or mislabeled it not as a porch, but we can confirm that or pull up documents, but.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Amy, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
I think the owner might have had his hand up at one point. I don't know if he still wants to comment.
Thing none, but.
I
Okay,
Mr.
hold on.
Goff,
Red Goff up top.
He's up top. Well, it was up top.
All right, go on, Ted.
I think you're unmuted, Mr. Goff.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that.
Sure.
No, I think Brendan Sullivan and Caroline did address it, but yeah, everything that I had, everything that we submitted, as far as I know, always had the existing porch as part of the original plan. So yeah, happy to follow up wherever needed.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, it looks like there's Heidi Condon has a hand up. Hold on.
Heidi, if you're unmuted,
Unmuted. Can you all hear me?
we got you.
I am not formally here for this hearing. I'm here for another one, but I did work with the Goffs and with Kavanaugh Consulting. And on my own computer, I just pulled up a 2013 site plan that I did that always had the covered porch identified as impervious with a roof. So I'm sure we can find more information and documents showing that we always had that as part of the approved project in 2013.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What I've been struggling to find is an existing conditions. Do you know what date that was filed?
In June.
All right. So to Andy's question on the front it's the front patio, right? Andy, you would say is probably the
The one facing the marsh, Frank.
I understand, but
Yeah.
what was in that location prior to this proposal?
It's ledge.
Was the applicant just walking on the ledge? Was there any?
Yeah. I think they're just
Grading.
walking on ledge. Ted would be able to tell you, but I'm pretty sure they were just walking over that ledge that sits there, because that whole end is ledge. Essentially, there's ledge and little bits of lawn scattered about.
Maybe Mr. Goff wants to comment on that. If we could let him in.
Yeah, if you step off the deck, it's just a couple of risers that goes down to a relatively flat surface, but it's all kind of with jagged ledge essentially. So, you know, we have small children, and I just kind of patched in and threw some seed down and just put a little grass just to try to smooth it out, so, you know, the kids wouldn't be kind of falling over the rocks.
Okay, so the proposed patio that's going there, what's that surface, Sean?
That's intended to be a stone surface, so essentially it'd be stone dry laid. It's on crushed stone and what we call chip stone, 1/4 inch chip stone. Water will flow through it and then just out along the ledge in the way it currently does today. Essentially, it's done in you know, because it's going to be over ledge, it's not going to be a real deep surface base treatment to it, right? So it's going to be sitting essentially on crushed stone, draining down between the cracks, essentially in between the joints.
Okay,
And it's, you know, the bulk of it is outside the 50. Little corner of that is in the 50 to kind of square it off. Because it's on top of ledge and because it makes sense. Just
Could I-
right, soften it a
just-
little bit.
A quick question, could you move it down so it's completely out of the 50?
It's tough to get stairs up into the deck at that point. We already have stairs. So, and we were trying to not crowd that set of steps that's existing there where it says EX steps and the existing steps. We're trying to be careful with that. It's, you know, at its largest moment, let me put it that way, at its deepest incursion, it's about 4 feet into 50.
And we did shift it quite a bit. It's pretty much those existing steps are stone steps, so we can't move those. I believe Sean did shift it as much as possible. It's kind of right touching those steps. It'll be a
There is in Caroline too, and everybody else, there's an existing cedar tree that's right at the corner, right against those existing angled stone steps, the ones that are there now. We really don't want to work over the top of those either because of that existing cedar tree that's there. It's not the most beautiful tree, but it's a survivor. So we really like it that way, and it's native. So we were trying to not get on top of the corner of those angled existing stone steps.
okay. And then, thank you. I guess this is an outdoor kitchen, there's sort of a corner of it that is into the 50. Is that on top of what is the existing wood deck?
It is.
correct.
So there was a wood deck there, and now it's going to have that outdoor kitchen placed on top of the wood deck.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Frank, if I can.
Yeah. Andy, I want to address the areas. I don't know if I'm hitting in the right spot here,
Well,
or.
I think we need to clarify the different plans, because I'm looking at a plan from 2016 and it has the deck as, it's not a square deck. The corner is cut intentionally to be out of the 50 in the plan I'm looking at.
There's a portion of the deck that's in the 50 right now. It is angled, to your point, and it is angled, but that side is into the 50 right now. And maybe that's because of the adjustment, the more recent adjustment
It
to
is.
the wetland flagging or something like that.
Yeah, the wetlands did tighten up there. That porch or that is not changing and the deck's not changing that footprint. But yes, the wetlands did the reflagging now has that 50-foot buffer encroaching on the existing porch.
Yeah, it definitely got closer, but the plan I'm seeing was, it was not a squared off deck. It was as sort of an angle on the corner.
I have access to this plan, but I'm not sure if by sharing that, we're gonna seriously digress. Because you guys have this plan, I'm sure it's but I'm not sure of the date of this plan. Because it actually shows, open deck on the entire, like, north side of the house, and that it's all ledge. Was originally all ledge and all open deck. So that must have been before. It must be 2016, I guess. Maybe this is the plan that Andy's talking about, but I could share it, Frank, if you want me to.
Sure.
Okay, let's see if I can do that.
Oh my.
Well, technical difficulties, maybe I can't share it right now, so hold on. Keep talking.
Jen was trying to see whether she could do it. Does anybody else want to, any other commission members want to add anything to what they already did?
Somebody's scraping something. Oh. Open deck, open deck.
So is that what exists now? Maybe somebody can comment on that.
The footprint looks like it. Is this the COC plan? I believe, as Brendan said, it was permitted as a porch. It was mislabeled on the COC. I'm not sure if that's correct, but the footprint, that does look like the footprint we have, just the wetland line has changed. There's a square deck that kind of, oh, I see the open deck, the deck itself, the second deck is kind of angular. Huh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Frank, if I could chime in, this is Brendan Sullivan.
Sure.
So Frank, this is the COC plan. And that obviously open deck, those two labels there, that wasn't all open deck. The smaller square open deck was a porch, and I have pictures of that from the certificate of compliance request, and it was permitted back in the 2013 notice of intent, which was to rebuild the house.
Yes.
So it was permitted as a screen porch, and it was built. So it was just mislabeled on this certificate of compliance plan. And that corner was, it is squared off on the existing deck, as you can see, to get it outside the 50-foot buffer. As it is today, it is squared off. You probably just can't see it underneath where the kitchen is there proposed. So some of that line, that salt marsh line on the northerly portion of the property, a couple of those flags got a foot or two closer, and that's all it took to, get some of that deck in a corner of that screen porch in the 50-foot buffer.
I see. And then the existing garage
That's going.
protrudes, that's being removed and then squared off, so. The new garage,
Mhm.
can we go back to that plan?
This is the new one.
All right, but the. All right, can you explain the difference in the wetlands lines, what you came up with versus what they started with?
Yeah,
Uh,
you're talking to me, Frank, correct?
Yes, Art Allen, please.
Yeah, Art Allen. So, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about this, and based on what I saw out there and comparing, the older plan to the current conditions, very likely the wetland encroachments, I'd be inclined to say that the wetland encroachments are largely due to changes in that average sea level. I mean, this is that kind of site where you're gonna see, those encroachments over time, 10, 20 years. So I think I would say by no fault of, the original delineator, it's very likely due to sea level rise, would explain probably the changes we're seeing out there. So, I mean, that certainly can't be, especially with an existing, developed site. I mean, that's, that can't really be held against the applicant that that he's being encroached upon, but that's, that's just the way it's going. And that would be my opinion on what happened out here. Again, they went back, they revisited it, they made the revisions, and it, and it put more of the site in the 50-foot buffer. And I think that's just an artifact of the way things are going, basically.
All right, you obviously review a lot of these projects and for all sorts of reasons, but your overall feeling on this project, not so much the changes that they made after obviously they went in for something much larger, and then you back away some from that so it looks better. My question to you is, this project as compared to what exists, do you feel that this is a net gain over what's existing on the site now? And if you do or don't, what would the reason be?
No, I've said that, and I mean, I had that in writing in an email, and I said that in my introduction tonight. I mean, I think, I think in the end, once all the mitigation plantings are in, and the new garage with the flood improvements, I mean, given that, that the proposed patio, I mean, it's a patio on solid exposed ledge. I mean, if you're gonna allow 50-foot buffer encroachments, especially with mitigation that exceeds the encroachment areas, given that they made a sincere effort to reduce the footprint, and I mean, I really think this project could be a net benefit to the site.
Is there any other improvement that the applicant could make that would significantly improve the environment, or
No, I don't really see it. I mean, if this was if this was new development, I mean, it would be a completely different discussion, but given, given that it's a existing development and, and they've pulled some things back, I mean, and the expansions, I think are, in my opinion, are justified. I really think they're where they need to be, under the waiver provisions, and it's really just, the commission's discretion now to, to approve it or send them back to the drawing board, which, I mean, obviously they could, they could reduce the scope further if the commission saw fit to have them do that. But I think they've, they're providing the bonus mitigation, and the conditions, warrant what they're proposing, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Does any commission members have any other questions or anything they want to add? Okay, I think we've discussed this sufficiently. I'd take a motion.
I make a motion to close.
That's from Penny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That's from Brendan. All in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Andy?
No.
Okay. And Frank, yes. But I think we do want to just review the mitigation and whatnot with Amy prior to the orders. So, okay.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you.
Forward.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. 17 Circuit Ave. On October 17th, 2022, 6 p.m. the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Patricia and Michael Brodigan for work related to constructing 2 additions and a pool, hardscape, and landscape improvements at a single-family dwelling location 17 Circuit Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website. And who do we have?
Brendan Sullivan with Merrill Associates.
Okay, Brennan, just before you do that, I just want to make one. I don't have any interest in this project. I do pretty substantial work on the home adjacent to that project. Years ago, I worked on this home when it was a prior owner, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But I do quite a bit of work for the abutter, and I just want actually the applicant as well as anybody else to know that if anybody thinks I feel I can be objective in this hearing, but if anybody's got any concerns, they could certainly let us know. Okay. Brendan.
Very good. Thank you, Chair. Brendan Sullivan with Merrill Associates. Here with the, I believe the owners are on here as well, Michael and Tricia Brodigan, as well as Sean Papich, the landscape architect. So this is Circuit Ave out on First Cliff, number 17. It faces northeast, almost towards the lighthouse, towards the mouth of the harbor, to the Atlantic Ocean. Existing single-family home. They're proposing 2 additions in the rear. One is basically a screen porch on the rear left, and a 2-story addition on the rear right. There's an existing shed they'll be relocating, and also a rear deck in the back, as well as a small plunge pool, a small 18 by 13, what we're calling a plunge pool, that'll be built within the deck.
On the deck, yeah.
So yeah, it'll be obviously below it'll look like a built-in pool. It'll be below the deck.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. So we have two resource areas. We have a coastal bank, and we have a land subject to coastal storm flowage, velocity zone 19, and then it goes velocity zone 15. I'm sorry, AE 15, and then zone X. I have filed for a LOMA and got approval for a LOMA that puts the I basically came about 5 feet off of the velocity zone because with the LOMA, I can't change the velocity zone without doing a wave run up analysis, and that's just above my above my grade. So most of the land above, even landward of the velocity zone, is about it's above 15. So I put the elevation, I put the AE 15 about 5 feet off of the velocity, and that's what I submitted to FEMA, and they approved it. And all that elevation is above elevation 15. And there's a coastal bank delineated down on the top of the riprap slope on the ocean facing side. I think really that's about it. Sean's landscape plan is very detailed on number of plantings and doing some reconfiguration of hardscape landscape in the front and the sides as well. We could open up for any questions.
Okay. Amy, do you want to start?
Okay. Sounds pretty straightforward, Brendan. Good description of the resource areas. I think this is. I found this on the web. Oh, geez. I think that it's something that we can condition, and DEP had no comments.
Okay. Okay, Richard, do you want to start this one?
No.
Got it, Richard. Move it.
Well, that's honest.
No, I don't want to start it. I might finish it, but I don't want to
Oh,
start
boy. Oh, boy. And now I'm worried.
Well, you can have both.
it. I'll pass for the moment.
Okay. Penny?
Yes, Brendan, I just want to be clear that plunge pool, it is in the deck. It is not in the ground. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, I'm sure a portion will be in the ground. The coping on the deck is at elevation 18.8. They call it
Yeah.
19.
Right.
And the ground below there right now is elevation between 16 and 17.
Okay.
So I'm assuming, Sean, how deep is that plunge pool?
Yes, the whole structure itself is about 5 feet, and it's essentially a precast plunge
Yeah.
pool that is brought and dropped in place.
Yeah.
There's no other excavation activities other than setting it right into its space on a crushed stone base. So it will get into that slope a little bit, Brendan, as you were just describing. It's 8 feet by 13, so kind of a large spa is really all it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Frank. I'm okay.
Okay. Andy?
I don't think I have anything further to add on this one. I'm all right for right now.
Okay, Brendan?
Brendan's gone to sleep.
Couldn't hear me?
We missed
I'm
that.
sorry.
Now we hear.
I'm sorry. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have anyone in the audience for this? Joe Harold has a hand up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Katie and I are abutters on the south side of this property here owned by the Brodigans. And when Patricia and Michael moved in, they did nothing but only enhance and beautify this property. And looking at these plans here, this property, once it's enhanced with this description here, is only going to complement the neighborhood. And Katie and I fully support this project to go forward as proposed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harold. Oh, what's the street address? Your street address?
I'm at 21.
21. Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
go back to Richard.
No, Richard doesn't have much to say on this. I can't find anything to complain about.
Oh, okay.
And I was reading the thing so hard, I wanted to have something and I just couldn't work fast enough.
Oh,
Old eyes.
okay.
No, I'm good, Frank.
Okay.
Then
Can you just explain, Sean, the planting, some of the plantings that are going in here?
Yeah, can you pull up my planting plan in there or my landscape plan? Should be in the package with it. If not, I can wing it with looking at Brendan's plan also. Essentially what we're going to do, we may or may not have it there. I hope so. I have it and I can share it, but I don't know if you would do that. You can share, make me the host if you'd like. You know, if you make me the host, I might just want to stay here all night.
That'd be hard.
So, but if you don't have it, I can speak to it real quickly, looking at Brendan's plan. What you've got around the edges are essentially it's a lawn area in the back. There's an existing wood deck and that expands. So there you go. Okay. And what we've got, you can look at it that way too. The most pertinent pieces essentially are between the deck and the seawall, or what we'd call the kind of stone riprap. And essentially right now you've got some Montauk daisies on the south side, essentially, and a few other shrubs adjacent to the Heralds. There's some Rosa rugosa on the north side, on the other side, and then a very large kind of mulch bed that's got some blue lime grass, a couple of beach plums in it. What we were intending to do is take and fill that whole area. Right now, it's a substantial amount of just brown mulch, and as landscape architects, we can't help but fill it full of something else. So we were intending to put some beach grass there and Rosa virginiana, which is a native rose. There is some existing rugosa rose, which we were leaving that in place unless you want us to remove it and put in native Rosa rugosa or native Rosa virginiana. We're also adding back some seaside goldenrod. Those are doing really well on the water right now, doing very, very well. So any of those species we just talked about we're performing quite well. We've also got some sweet gale, which is essentially kind of a smaller cousin of the bayberry. Will also be going in. So really hitting those 4 plant types to fill in the areas that are currently some bed and then keep some amount of the lawn that's in back there. That's really their gathering space.
Where it shows the beach grass with a couple of lines, is the intention to take the beach grass all the way to the seawall, Sean?
That's correct. Yep, that's
okay.
correct.
I think that's an asset, because being familiar with that, when there's overwash, it tends to scour that lawn and it just keeps flowing down.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you're familiar with the property right adjacent to it, I know. And so this would really just kind of round out the rest of the planting and kind of enclose what's existing there as lawn, but do it with native plants.
Got it.
It's kind of the bulk of the landscape to keep it somewhat simple. Other plant materials throughout the site, we're going to be doing a fair amount of planting throughout this site, that's for sure.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. And I think we've asked anybody in the audience.
Yeah.
And any other members have anything else to add? Okay, take a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to close.
That's Richard. Do we have a
Oh,
second?
Second.
From Penny? All in favor? Andy
Yes.
and Brendan?
Yes.
Great. And Frank, yes. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So would the order of conditions be issued maybe at the next meeting?
Yep.
We hope
Yes.
so.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks.
Thank
Brendan. Have a good night.
You too.
148 Tilden Road. This is continued.
Tonight it's continued?
No. It's continued from
Continued in September.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this looks like Morse Engineering is Greg.
Who's here? With the new plans.
Brad Holmes raised his hand.
Okay, can we do 148 and 154 together?
Yes.
I think that would move things along a little bit.
Yeah, so we have, what we were gonna do is, Frank, you and I, we talked about this beforehand. I think we got.
That was a couple hours ago, Amy. I'm already so okay.
Yeah, sorry, and
We want to speak to Art. Want to let Art
Yeah, so we have Art Allen still on the call here. You've got me. Sorry, I just stepped away from my desk for just a second. So I missed if you just said something and you were calling for me. But anyways, we've got Greg is on the call here. We don't have revised plans. We did get a mitigation plan though. I don't think we've got revised drawings, but we did get a mitigation plan. We don't need a new presentation. I think we were just talking, we were going to have you guys talk, hear from Art and go through the commission pretty much.
Okay,
Right.
do we have Greg on the, or who's the engineer on the?
Yeah, Greg is on the call.
Okay, sorry, Greg.
Got his hand up, so he is here and available. And Brad's also still on the call too. And I'm sure
Perfect.
Steve is on the call too, I'm sure. So we've got everybody
Okay.
here. So the discussion
right.
can begin.
All
So
right.
you wanna start with Art? Or you
Do we
wanna
want
start
to add, is there anything we want to add to that? I don't know, Greg's got his hand up. Is there anything in addition to what we've already got submitted?
Well, I mean, you have shown as a mitigation plan, but I think you should really be showing the notice of intent plan. Is what
Okay.
you really should be showing, right?
All right.
I like the mitigation.
Or maybe actually, let's see what Art has to say. Okay,
All right, well, actually before that, just because the applicant usually tees off, is there anything else to add other than what that's been submitted?
well, you guys went out there and you performed a site visit with the applicant, and there was a mitigation plan that was sent in and Art reviewed it. That's what's
Yep.
happened since the
Yep.
last meeting. That's all that's happened. So. let's talk.
Okay,
So let's talk about it and you guys can throw
Yep.
out your opinions. Okay.
all right. So do we have Art there?
Art's still here. Good
Great.
evening again, Art Allen from Ecotech, peer review consultant for the commission. Since my original comments, I reviewed a revised mitigation plan, revised through September 15th, 2022. And then I provided comments on those plans dated September 30th, 2022, two-page comment letter or memo. I started out by just reiterating my original comments. They have requested waivers for work in the 50-foot buffer. This is new construction on both of these lots. I just basically reiterated that the applicant should consider reducing the project scopes to stay out of the 50-foot setbacks and/or combining the lots and redesigning in such a way as to avoid the setbacks would be the first. First consideration, as the commission's aware, the mantra being avoid, then minimize, then mitigate. So that kind of the burden's basically on them to show that they've avoided and minimized to the extent practicable. But since the new mitigation plan's been submitted, I know the commission's considering it. I've made some comments on Brad's revised mitigation plan. They clearly expanded the mitigation. They basically kind of contoured it around the backyards, made it look, a little more natural, it's more expansive than the original mitigation plan. It's a good plan, native plantings within the mitigation area, and then still the proposed invasive species control, which obviously, as the commission's aware, there's a significant amount of invasives, especially in the understory out there. But I did comment that they should provide the numbers for mitigation versus the amount of work proposed in the 50-foot. You know, and I assume that proposed mitigation is going to exceed the amount of permanent disturbance in the 50-foot, but it will be good to see those numbers on the plan to show that they have, you know, expanded that and they do exceed the amount of permanent disturbance in the 50. I recommended that they move the proposed conservation markers to the development side of the mitigation area. Right now, they have those back on that existing stone wall at the rear of the mitigation area. Really, they need to be at the front to protect those plantings in the mitigation area, kind of in perpetuity. They show a water quality swale at the end of the proposed drain line expansion on 154 Tilden. I just recommended that they detail that proposed swale on the plans, on the NOI plans. And then I had some comments on the invasive species management work, just that it'll need to be carefully supervised. I recommended that cutting should only be done by laborers on foot with hand tools or power saws. No wheeled or tracked equipment should be allowed within that buffer area, the invasive management area. And I recommended special conditions that reference the mitigation plans and require inspections by the commission or their agents whenever invasive species are marked prior to removal and then after removal to ensure that the cutting and associated disturbance is minimized. So those are my comments on the revised plans to date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
All right, so why don't we go to the engineer or Brad, whoever wants to comment on that.
Good evening, this is Greg. Brad is on the line as well. I think Art summarized it pretty well. We did do an analysis of the numbers. I realize they're not on the plan, but I'll run through them real quickly and then I'm going to turn it over to Brad in case you had any questions regarding the mitigation. At number 148 Tilden, which is lot 2, we're proposing 1,003 square feet of lawn inside of the 50-foot buffer. What we are proposing for mitigation are 1,427 square feet of plantings in front of the stone wall, as well as 6,088 square feet of invasive species mitigation. And then we also have plantings between the 50 and the 100-foot on this lot, which comprise of 688 square feet. You'll notice that all of the proposed house is outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. On lot 1, which is number 154 Tilden Road, the lawn area inside of the 50-foot buffer is 541 square feet. The plantings in front of the wall comprise 1,844 square feet. The invasive species removal area is 3,898. And again, we have additional plantings between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer, which are 756. And as similar with lot 2, all of the proposed house, the utilities and everything are outside of the 50-foot buffer zone on this lot as well. I'll turn it over to Brad. He really has been the one at the spearhead of the mitigation and Mr. Allen's review. Brad.
Thank you, Greg. To add on to what Greg and Art explained, I agree with Art. The conservation marker should be at that landward edge of the mitigation planting facing each site. That was a more of a typo overlook, so we'll correct the plan on that. As far as the invasive species management, I'm in agreement with Art. The intent is to be done with laborers and hand tools so that there isn't any machinery in that zone beyond the wall. And the water quality swale, I can work with Greg Morse to get a design on that swale to get more detail on that. But I'm in agreement with those aspects. And the design is prepared so that we have a nice mitigation planting strip with the backdrop of that stone wall, but we're also including more of a native landscape strip of saplings that will be pleasing to look at, so that people won't want to go beyond that area. Those conservation markers will be a reminder, but I'll leave it at that. I think you don't need too much more description because we did get a chance to review it on site.
If I could just add to that real quick, this is Greg again. Moving the markers to the development side of the planting area, that could certainly be conditioned if the commission chose to do so. And with respect to the water quality swale, we are working closely with DPW, as this is a DPW drain that discharges onto the site. We would size that in accordance with their standards and require their sign off. That could be conditioned as well, that DPW have final review of the swale. It's not so much a swale as it's essentially just a riprap discharge at the end of the existing pipe that gets extended.
Okay. Amy, what do you want to add to this?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Penny, you've been out there in the bushes.
Yeah, it's, I like the mitigation. I don't like the 50-foot. Oh, I don't know what to say. Here we go again, getting into no touch zones. But what concerns me is if this is appealed, we probably will lose our control. That's my biggest concern. I don't know what else to say. I do like the plantings. I like what Brad came up with. I like the markers, and I hope it's fencing or something. It's a tough site. And the getting rid of the invasive, that's on the other side of the stone wall. Am I correct, Brad? You're going in there to get rid of the invasives? Brad, I can't.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
How far back are you going in there?
I muted myself. Sorry.
That's all right.
It's a two component project. The invasives on the other side of the wall facing the wetland,
right,
which are interspersed in among the area, will be done by hand. The invasives on the site side of the wall will also be removed because we're going to be working in that area,
right?
So that they'll be removed, fully within that area, and then obviously anything, on the project side of the mitigation area will be removed as well. We designed it so that we had a realistic lawn, as small as possible, to have somewhat of a lawn at the back of the house, and have some movement, so that 12 to 15 feet of lawn at the back of the house, so that we, at the end of the day, once the mitigation's done, we really have a minimal amount of area of lawn in the 50-foot buffer zone.
Yeah, no, that's what I like.
Right. So the invasives, it's going to be an ongoing management plan and task for the property, but it would be something that we're looking to eradicate the invasives on both those project areas.
For the whole site.
Correct. For
Okay.
each lot, from
For
the
each
shaded,
lot.
from the wetland line to
Yeah.
Tilden Road.
Okay. Yeah, because when we were out there, it's pretty thick after you get on the other side of the stone wall, all the stuff. All right. Moving on, Frank, I'm gonna ponder.
Okay. I saw Steve with his hand up, and we'll get to you after we get through the commission members. So, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, having been out there and seen the site, especially, I guess I'm in favor of a project that keeps the 50 as a no touch, and that they work around that. So I guess that's where I am.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Just Jen, is there a revised landscape plan for the other lot? What we're looking at on this? Okay, thanks.
That's 148. This is lot 2.
Yeah. All right. Brendan?
So just one question on the numbers, for 148, the mitigation, like 114, 1,427, 6,000, and what was the last one?
1,427 square feet. That's the plantings in front of the wall. The invasive species work is 6,088. And then plantings between the 50 and the 100 are 688.
688, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how I feel on all this. I like, yeah, I guess I'm still pondering. I have no other questions really.
Okay. Richard?
Well, maybe I'm coming at it from a little different angle. I look at understanding the difficulties of this particular area and putting in the houses and all that. I look at a removal of 10,000 feet of invasives and the planting plan as something that's pretty positive in an area that's being steadily overrun by invasives. So I guess I'm looking at it from the more positive side. Understanding, of course, we're still dealing with stuff in 50s and in difficult areas, but I'm impressed by the way they've tried to mitigate this.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. I guess, do we have anybody in the audience?
Seeing none, Frank.
Steve, did you want to comment on this? He had his hand up earlier. I don't know if he's still out there.
He's having some connection issues, but if he's still out there, I'm sure he'll raise his hand.
Pretty sure of that.
Yes. Boys. Boys will be
Frank, why don't you
boys.
give us your opinion? Remember, we're on a timeline here tonight.
Yeah, Steve's on now. Why don't you let him speak?
Hey, Steve.
Okay, Steve, that comment applies to you too.
He's got to unmute. He's got to
You gotta
unmute.
unmute him.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it's great to be unmuted, to be able to speak for a couple of seconds. I just want to bring up a couple of quick things. The difference between this mitigation plan and the first one that we started with, obviously Art picked up on it. There is a lot more mitigation involved in this one, which is what we are trying to do. There is very little lawn area that we're actually asking for. I think the only thing that was missed in this, and we mentioned it before, that there is one stone wall in the middle of the property that's going to be dismantled. And I want to make sure you guys get some kind of condition that a lot of those stones get used to rebuild that back wall. So once I'm done with the project, I want to make sure that's going to be a nice wall back there as well.
Okay.
And then other than that, I appreciate the commission looking at this, and I appreciate Art Allen's input. And I think that this is going to be a nice project. I think it will be enhancement.
Either Steve's kind of cutting in and out.
In and out.
Greg, are you familiar with it? Was there another piece of property that adjoins this that is going to get protected?
There's a property just to the right of this screen that was created by a Form A plan that the applicant has in his control. I believe it's his intention to offer that as mitigation. It adjoins several other pieces of property owned by the Conservation Commission that would be deeded over to the commission.
How much land is with that?
I believe it's in excess of an acre. I don't have the plan in front of me.
Okay. All right, so I mean, the big question, it seems like, between commission members is the encroachment in the 50 with both these projects. Without encroachment in the 50, everything would be held right up to the house, and almost in both of these, or a good portion of it.
Get nothing.
Right.
I guess with either Andy or Brendan, would there be more mitigation or more plantings or something that you would find to make this project more appealing or whatever? I understand the conflict. The town, the state has a 25-foot setback to wetlands. Our town has 50. And it seems like we're pushed on that fairly frequently. We've been through the process of making sure the wetlands lines are correct. We've had a pretty good review of the property. Is there something that you could see that would make this a better project, or in any way enhance this? Either Brendan or Andy, if you would comment.
Do you want to go first, Andy?
Go for it. I've had my head down.
I should have stayed quiet. So, yeah, I'm seeing the both sides of this issue in a way. There's things about this that I definitely don't like, and we are seeing a lot of projects go right up to the 50. And then, of course, as we've seen earlier and time again, there's creep beyond that. So, when we're going to build this, on top of that, this is a new dwelling. This is new development here. So, what are we supposed to do here? Because we're going to sell this to somebody, and they're going to start encroaching more. It's kind of a little bit. Maybe it's our nature. I'm also kind of, we're talking about mitigation, and I guess, I don't know. I'm always thinking of mitigation as, like the work over here on the West End. We took away we built a road to Appleton Field, and you made wetlands somewhere else, but we're doing mitigation like in place. Is that really mitigation? I don't know. I know, I like the idea of clearing out the invasives, but I just overall, I just wish we were away from the 50. Obviously, I think we all would. But on the other hand, I do see that, if at what point does this become a lose for us if this is, challenged, or whatever that's called. I'm sorry. And so a lot's going on. Appealed. That's it. Appealed. Thank you. So that's kind of what I'm struggling with. And That's not an answer to your question at all. I know, Frank. I'm sorry. So.
Oh, no, that's, I mean,
what
that's,
I've got so
but
far.
that is the crux, that is the crux of this dilemma that we
Right.
get ourselves into. Or brought to us, and then try to work out something that we think is beneficial for our town. And we've kind of been frustrated to see things go either way. There's mounting pressure to develop. And at the end of the day, is this, do we feel that there's enough here for us to give some relief to that setback, or do we stick to it? In which case the developer could build that project. You know, we could say just stick to the 50, and then the woodlands stays right there. But I don't know. And we could still ask for invasive removal and other plantings, but say, no, you've got to stick to the 50. Andy?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say a total no without knowing what might be offered, but I think holding the 50 as a no touch for me on this one is a little more straightforward. I think, you know, it's what's out there is serving as a good buffer for that wetland. I have a hard time imagining what would be put in that's better. I like the invasive removal, but honestly, it's one time only, and we all know how fast bittersweet grows. I mean, it's going to be back. There's no way to enforce or to expect routine removal. So that's sort of a short-term win for a very long-term development. So I think I would be, and if we, you know, it might get appealed, but I feel like sometimes I'm okay with saying, look, you know, I'll uphold the bylaw we have and see what happens. But so I think for me, keeping that 50 as a no touch is my strong preference on this one.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, I just want to say the 50-foot to me is sacred, but this house, both of them, they're gonna get built. Okay, they will be built, whether they have a backyard or not. And if it goes to a Patio, 25 feet, he's gonna get that lawn from the state. Okay, because they're only a 25-foot buffer. And we've seen this happen before. And what scares me is when DEP takes over, we have no control over the project. Okay, and
Just look at 3A.
yeah, and look at this, a couple of other that DEP took over, and thankfully at the moment they're fine, but when something goes wrong, we have absolutely no recourse. So that's my feeling with this is, yes, the 50, I try so hard to keep it, but the house, it's all out of the 50. It will get built. That's a fact. So should we get something? Even if the invasive is only for 5-10 years, we don't have the invasives. That's better than letting them keep growing, because a lot of those invasives are going to take some of the big trees in the back down because they're tangling around them and they will kill them. So, you know, it's like, you got to balance it. So, but I hear you, and yes, the 50 should be sacred, but sad to say it isn't with the state, and I don't want to lose control of this project. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Brad, you wanted to speak to this? Looks
did.
like there's a future environmentalist on the
Yeah, running around.
She jumped in on me.
Good.
Quickly,
Hey, Dad, it's time to get done here.
Yeah, the plan is not to be a one and done on the invasives. It's meant to at least last the life of the order of conditions, and could be included as a special condition for certificate of compliance consideration. On the wetland side of the wall isn't bad with invasives. The site side of the wall is infested with invasives. Over time, those invasives are gonna start marching towards the wetland as they are. So I think that, you know, the health of the site is degraded severely on the wall side. It's undeveloped, but it's degraded. So I think overall, we're gonna have a healthier buffer to the wetland with this plan than leaving the site as it is. And one last point is the DEP doesn't have any standards or setbacks to a BVW. It's that you can't alter the wetland. As long as you can ensure that the wetland's protected, you can build up to the wetland edge. There are no setbacks under the state.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
scary.
All right. So I think for folks that have seen some of this before, and this includes projects that Mr. Bjorklund's brought to us before, we get these projects that are fairly close to the wetlands, and then they're sold, and then people start to go about what they want to do here. I can think specifically about Stockbridge Road and Hollis Street are a couple, and it's not just there. We're seeing it at Toll Brothers where people have bought stuff, and then the next thing you know, they're in cutting out trees and whatnot in a protected area. So it's a tough thing to do when a house or a structure is put there. When you create a buffer with plantings and materials and then the posts, you do that. I guess we're sort of hung in the middle here between members, and I'm wondering if a consideration would be that we further increase that buffer and the distance from that to the house be reduced to, say, 6 feet or 7 feet, something, split the difference on these. I know it makes it tight in the back, but what we're trying to avoid is people doing something different. But if that's planted out properly and there's still a yard available on either side, does that make any difference to anybody and any commission members? Jen's got, I forget what number this one is.
This is 154. Could you put 148 up, Jen?
So again, do you want to, I mean, if
They don't have a yard.
Would it make, well, they have a front yard. The other consideration is, do we look for more planting of trees? I mean, essentially, everything from the street to the stone wall, or at least to the planting area, is going to get cut down.
Yeah.
So do we want to see some additional trees, decent trees planted in the front yard of both these homes as mitigation? And I guess I'd ask Brendan or Randy if they want to address that.
Brenda's looking at me.
Yeah, Andy. Well, he
tell.
got on the hot seat the last time. So yeah, you're up.
Your turn.
It's yeah. I mean, we're basically gaming out a future situation that it's a little unpredictable. I don't think it does for me. I think I'm ready to take the chance on holding the 50 personally, but that's where I am. Just as one individual on the commission.
No, I get it.
Can I speak, Frank?
Yes.
Okay, if I can, this is pretty much for Andrew here. The
Steve, you're gonna
whole
have to spend a
purpose
little
of
more.
Doing this mitigate. Can you not hear me?
Well, you're breaking up a lot. You're gonna have to spend more
You're
on
in
your
and out.
internet.
Yeah, I'm in Norwell. That's the problem. We have lousy service over here.
Okay.
Purpose of trying to-
Sure you're not in Mars?
We're
All
getting every third word if we're
Steve,
lucky.
we cannot hear you, Steve. You're gonna have to,
I hate
go
Zoom.
somewhere else.
I hate Zoom. I'm gonna talk to, you know, this, I'm gonna call Greg Morse right now.
All right.
I'll put Steve on speakerphone and hopefully that can transmit through in a minute here. Steve, I'm putting you on speakerphone.
Okay, hopefully the commission can hear me now.
We can.
Yep.
Hallelujah. I just want the community members to understand the reason why we're putting all these mitigation plantings in is because we are trying to stop people from going further towards the wetlands. If we didn't put the lawn area in the mitigation, once these houses are built, they'll probably think they want to clear to the wall. Because you've seen what the site looks like down there. And we're trying to do a real nice planting plan so that it won't be disturbed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve, actually, while Steve's on, is it your intention to clear these and plant this, or is this something that's this requirement's gonna get passed on to somebody else?
Right now, I have a buyer for both of these two lots. He's bought my last 7 projects. He is going to live in one of these 2 houses for a number of years. That's what he's told me. So it's Paul Sharon Jr.
Yeah.
And I know you've seen plenty of his work in town.
Paul does good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, I guess if I had my druthers, I'm with Penny and Richard that we see things go forward, and we've seen the frustration in a few locations where we've tried to deny the project and only see it to come back and us have a more difficult time with it. So I guess if I were to look to reduce plantings and mitigation, I guess my suggestion would be to increase the buffer and reduce the space between the house and the buffer to about half of what it is now, and require more tree plantings in the front of the property.
That'd be fine with me. I think it's a good idea.
I go with just planting in the front. I mean, you've only got 12 feet back there.
Well, it reduces the intrusion into the 50 by half of what it is now.
But we could, yeah.
Yeah, the applicant certainly is willing to add tree plantings along the side here and along the front of the property to help offset. I'd also add again, aside from the plantings, the mitigation of deeding the rear property to the town, the care of the Conservation Commission, as well as correcting the drainage issue and providing a new drainage easement to the town of Scituate. Should also be considered as part of the mitigation package.
Okay, all right. I'm going to take a motion.
Take a motion to close
Well,
both 148 Tilden and 154 Tilden.
you can make a motion to close, you can make a motion to deny. So you're going to make a motion to close.
Yes.
With any amendments
With
to
the
that?
mitigation as it stands, and I personally would like some plantings on the front and the side of the property.
Okay, do I have is there a second to that?
I would second that with the additional conditions that Greg just promised.
Oh, yes, the back.
All right, any thoughts about reduce or adding to the amount of buffer? I mean, the mitigation plantings? and reduction of lawn.
There's
I
not
like,
much on.
personally, I like the way Penny phrased it, more in the front and on the side.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Andy,
I'll stay with my no.
okay, Brendan,
I'll say yes.
okay. And Frank, yes. All right. And is that for both do we do that for both?
Yes, yes, she
Yes.
did.
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. 126 Kent Street. On 10/17/22 at 6 p.m. The Town Hall, Situate Conservation will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Hadley and Andrew Gorham for work related to raising and reconstructing a single-family dwelling at 126 Kent Street. Situate abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meetings available where am I? On the agenda posted on the town website. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner and applicant Andrew and Hadley Roman. This is an NOI for a raise and reconstruct of their single-family home located at 126 Kent Street. Depicted on the plan here is the property. It's 30,647 square feet in size. It's entirely upland land area, with the exception that the front half of the property is located in the FEMA floodplain. The floodplain exists at elevation 14. For reference, Kent Street, which is at the bottom of the page, is at elevation 10. The topography at the back of the lot, which is the top of the page, is approximately elevation 17. The house, there was an existing house at this property. You can see it shaded in the light gray. The proposal is to take down that existing home, construct a new one a little bit further back on the lot, but generally in the same location. The new house would be FEMA compliant. We proposed flood vents on the foundation and provided a foundation plan and a proposed elevation certificate with the notice of intent. The first floor would be placed at elevation 15, while the floodplain is at 14, so it would provide a minimum of 1 foot of freeboard as required by the building code. The utilities at this site are existing and would be reconnected from the existing home to the new home, subsurface gas, electric, and water. The driveway would remain in the same location. It does get widened slightly to provide access to the 2-car garage on the house. There was a 17% increase in impervious land coverage. The project did not trigger the stormwater bylaw review as it was under the 25% threshold. All of the grading that you see is just to make up the difference because we're raising the grade with the foundation. It's all existing lawn area. The grade comes up in front of the house approximately 2 feet and will be restored with lawn in those locations. DEP had no comments. We propose a silt sock around the limit of work along the down gradient property line. I turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Yeah, okay, so this is a raise rebuild. My comments for land subject to coastal storm flowage would be that it should be compliant with Mass State Building Code construction requirements for coastal resource areas. And for a new build that they should add a roof, drywall or 2 for roof runoff would be typical on a raised rebuild in this area, and also to wrap the site in limit of work and for a construction entrance. DEP had no comments.
Okay. Penny?
No, I'm all set with this one.
Okay, Richard?
No, I'm good with it. I like, of course, Amy's roof runoff, all that stuff. Yes.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, nothing to add to that. I'm okay.
Okay. Brendan,
I'm all set, thanks.
do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
Saying none, Frank.
Okay.
I'd like to address the agent's comments when you have a break.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing this silt sock on like 3 sides. I'm just assuming the way that topography goes, it's not needed anywhere else.
That's correct. That was one of the comments. Wrapping the entire limit of work or the entire site with the erosion control barrier really isn't a necessity here. We wrapped the front of the site in the sides up to the back of the house. The land continues to go upward. We're not going to get any runoff running toward the back of the site. It's uphill. It's an existing lawn area. There's no disturbance back there.
Okay. I don't have a lot more. Greg, if you got anything else you want to.
The comment regarding a construction entrance, there's an existing paved driveway onto this site. It's our intention to use that existing paved driveway for the construction. We weren't anticipating taking that out and putting in a crushed stone construction entrance. If you want one, maybe we could include language that it would be installed, if conditions warranted, if it was extra muddy or something, but we think the existing asphalt driveway will serve fine during the construction phase.
Okay. Is there anything else?
That'll work, but it's definitely Kent Street's not a road that you want to get muddy.
Yeah, understood.
It'll get written up by the police, so we'll want to put a condition in for that.
Understood. We have no objections to putting some roof dry wells on as a condition. And yes, everything here would be FEMA land subject to coastal storm flowage compliant. No problem with those 2 recommendations at all.
Okay. All right. It makes sense to me.
Okay. Anybody in the audience?
Thanks for keeping an eye on it, Penny.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to close.
That's
Second.
Richard. Oh, geez, Penny. Don't get outdone.
Oh, we're fighting with each other.
Andy
God love
and
Richard.
Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
Penny, I got spoiled last meeting. I had to do it. You weren't there.
that's
What?
right. I was at CPC, dear.
You were.
24 to Alden Ave during
Asking for money.
10/17/22 during a 6 p.m. meeting, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of
Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Walsh for determination of applicability of the West Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to constructing a platform for a generator and constructing a new shed at a single-family dwelling at 24 Alden Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the website. Do we have anybody?
Good evening. I'm Heidi Condon. I'm
Good
here
evening.
from HC Design representing Mirza Walsh, the new owner of this property. And I'll
Great.
just quickly walk you through. This is an RDA because all we're doing is requesting a platform for the generator. And I did receive structural drawings that I sent in today. They were just late from Rivermore, so I'm not sure if everyone got them. But it's an independent structure here and it will be at elevation 19. So it's out of the floodplain and 2 feet above. We are also requesting a shed and I was in discussions with the building inspector, Bob Vogel, last week, and we have reduced this to a 10 by 10 shed, which is an approved size by FEMA and does not require to be raised. It does require to be anchored And you should also have, from what I sent this morning, an anchoring structural system also from Rivermore, so that the shed will not float away in the event of a flood, and it will also not have a wind load issue. So we've kind of addressed both of those. So this now, instead of 15 by 18, will be a 10 feet by 10 foot shed. And with that request being reduced, and with the generator platform, we're still providing mitigating planting, but we're providing 200 square feet now that we made the shed smaller. So that's really it. The reason why the client, she's a new homeowner, a single mom with 2 young children. She has no basement, no attic. She just needs some storage. It's not for gas. There is no lawnmower because it's all beach. It's just storage. And she understands things could get wet. Generator, again, single mom, would like to have some electricity in a storm.
Got it.
So we are down the road going to start the process of applying to FEMA for a grant to elevate the home. And that's why we're not doing any mitigation work with that immediate house at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi.
Sure.
Amy?
No comment. Appears to meet the requirements of a -3.
Okay. Andy?
I'm okay on this.
Okay. Brendan?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm okay.
Richard?
No, I'm fine on this. I can understand why she needs the generator, absolutely.
Okay. Penny?
I just have one quick question. On the paperwork I have, it says proposed shed beyond wall. Are you on the ocean side of the wall with that shed?
The seawall is here.
Can't
And
see
so-
that, but
So we're
I have a
not near
picture,
a wall.
okay? And the door, the orange door. And there's a seawall and it says proposed shed beyond wall. I just want it, I would hope.
I'm just not sure what picture you're looking at. It may have been in our kind of existing images. So
See it?
if you could just
not
move it
really.
over a
Penny,
little tiny bit.
slide it
Oh.
over.
Oh,
I
slide
think
it.
my assistant
The
wrote
other way.
that. All
The other
she's
way.
saying is, I know which one you mean.
Okay,
The seawall is this rectangular, kind of this blocky area, and all she meant was it was beyond the wall. So it's not, she just didn't write it correctly.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on the seaward side of the wall.
Not
I
at
thought-
all.
No,
We don't
I
own
want the wall to
property there.
protect it, that's all.
Yeah, so
Right.
the ocean is right here, where you can see Seaside Road is actually the beach, and that's
Yeah.
the road. And then up above, so we're, quite far into.
Yeah.
Into her
No, I just
property.
want it protected. I mean, the seawall will help protect that shed.
Well, the shed's not in back of the seawall, Penny. So but I think Heidi, can you just elaborate a little bit? You said before you've got a letter from Rivermore. What's the elevation of the shed and how's it constructed?
I'm not sure if any of you got the drawing I sent this morning. We've made it much smaller. It's a pre-made. Thank you. There should be one more. That's the shed foundation plan here. Thank you. So we've made it smaller. It's right here and it's 10 by 10.
Okay.
And it's and when I spoke with Bob Vogel, he says a 10 by 10 shed is allowed by FEMA and it does not need to be elevated.
Yep.
And there
Needs to be
still will
anchored.
be, you can see there's still 4 concrete piers that will be installed and the actual shed can then be anchored to the piers. That's a requirement by FEMA. And once it's anchored, it will be protected from wind, so it can't blow away. And it also will be anchored, so in the event there is a significant flood in this area, it can't float away either.
Okay,
So Bob said, you know, this is completely compliant. We are putting the generator at elevation 19.
good idea.
So, and that's also by code. And
Okay.
as you can see, we have it 2 feet. We blew this one up. It was so hard to see on the other one. It's really an independent structure, so it's not tied to the actual building.
Sure. Okay,
And then this is where we're proposing the mitigated planting. There's already native planting in here, and we're just going to add some planting
great.
there.
Okay,
Moving
sounds
on.
good. Okay, I'll, thank you, Heidi.
Sure.
Anybody else, anyone in the audience? I'll take a motion.
I make a motion for a -3.
Of second,
I'll second that.
that's Brendan. All in favor, Richard,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.
On 10/17/22, during the 6 p.m. meeting, the Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Craig Barry for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to extending existing deck and new footings of single-family dwelling at location 22 10th Ave. Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Access to the virtual meeting is available posted on the town website. Okay. And do we have somebody on for that?
Yeah, whoever's on for this project at 22 10th Ave should raise their hand. Deck footings. Oh, here we go. It's a phone number, 508. Hold on. We're gonna unmute you right now. Okay, you should be on.
Hello?
All right.
Yes, good evening. Are you on for a Scituate Conservation hearing?
You're on now. We can, sir, you're unmuted if you want to speak. The phone number is unmuted for the conservation hearing if you want to speak, sir.
Yep, can you hear me?
I can. Just for
Okay.
you want to give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, sir. This is Craig Berry on 22 10th Avenue, requesting the deck extension.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Craig. Want to just
Um,
give us a little lowdown on what you're doing?
Yep. So there's an existing deck on the back of the house that's gotten to the point where it's in rough shape. So we're going to have it rebuilt. The request is that we're going to try to extend it 6 feet towards the backyard. And we're in the flood zone, so that's why the request is being made. There'll be 3 footings put into the backyard that are not currently existing there. So.
Okay.
And then from side to side, the width will be the same. The only extension will be the 6 feet further away from the house.
Okay. Great.
That's the basics of it.
Thank you. Amy?
Yeah, just stay on the call, sir, because we have questions.
Sure.
Oh, so I don't really have much comment. I mean, the photographs speak pretty clear onto the project location. It does
Yep.
get a little bit wet here.
Oh yeah, we go underwater. Yep.
It appears consistent with a negative finding for an RDA, so I think this is okay to approve this way.
Okay. Richard?
Only question is, what are the footings made of? And other than that, I'm good.
They're cement he's gonna put down.
Okay.
Like a sonotube
I think
or,
it's yep, let me see here. He's got it in the description here. Four concrete footings every 6 to 4, width to code. Yeah, he was talking about putting tubings down.
yep,
Sonotubes.
yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I think sometimes it's sonotubes. They also make pre-made ones that can get dug in. So I think the building inspector will
Yep.
make sure he's got adequate.
Yeah, sometimes
Okay.
they do those diamond piers too.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that okay, Richard?
Yep.
Okay. Penny?
No, I'm all set. Thank you. Looks good.
Andy?
All set.
Brendan?
Sorry, all set.
And Frank, yes. Great.
Make a motion for a
Okay.
-3.
So by
Second.
Richard, second by Penny, all in favor, Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great.
Which we should explain that means you have your approval. So
I
so you're all
appreciate it.
set.
So, well, we
I was
voted
listening
to,
all the other ones.
yeah. So we voted to approve it and then there'll be a little bit of paperwork. Okay,
Okay. Yep, much appreciated. Thank
Great.
you.
you have a nice night. Okay, what's left here?
Administrative.
Administrative items. So, all right, so we're not going to vote in 327 Central.
Nope.
Because we're waiting for a Board of Health on the Title V system, actually,
Really?
still, so we don't have the approved plan there, but you could vote the
Yep.
orders for the
Jericho
voting.
Road voting.
Jericho,
Wanna-
yeah.
Want to give us a motion, Penny?
Yeah, I make a motion. We accept the order of conditions as written for Jericho Road voting access facility.
So
Second.
motion second by Richard, all in favor. Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay. Toll Brothers,
And Toll Brothers, yeah, we talked about this last week, Frank,
yep,
or a couple weeks ago, and I followed up on the items that you wanted us to look into, the vernal pool and the conservation posts,
yeah,
and forwarded the response from the new senior land developer. And so they're working on those. They're in process still, just so you know that they have not forgotten about those. They are in process.
okay,
The vernal pool hasn't been touched.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, it hasn't. That's right. I was just by there.
yeah, me too.
so part of the orders and conditions for Toll Brothers is that they're supposed to clean up all around the vernal pool, which is a good distance away from the wetlands replication. And then we have a few other outstanding items, but it doesn't really have a bearing on this bond.
No.
The bond is for the wetlands replication,
Correct.
which I think at this point we feel has established and it's done pretty well.
Survived the summer.
Yeah, I mean, Amy, have you reviewed this with their consultant? And I think you're in agreement
Yes.
that it's done pretty well.
Yes,
So
I've been
what
out
would-
there numerous times, and yes, and we agree that the replication area is doing quite well.
Right. Do we still, are we clear on this land issue? I mean, again, that's not to necessarily to do with the bond, but the properties that they want to turn over to the town, did any headway on that?
Well, only to what we've discussed, in that Toll Brothers owns that property and they have not apparently turned it over to the town yet. And whether they're intending on doing that is not clear. That seems to be between the select board and Toll Brothers or the planning board. I think actually the select board.
Okay,
It's definitely documented that there were conversations regarding it, though.
right. And the other parcel, is the land that's between
The seawall
Oceanside and the seawall?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
okay. And so that is in the process of being discussed by the select board?
Well, I don't know if it's on their current list of items that they are talking, like, I'm not sure if they're talking, the select board has got anything in discussion with, about Toll Brothers, like that they've got going on. We could put it on a list, because I'm sure we have a list of items that, you know, we usually have a list of town administrator items that we could put it on our town administrator list.
All
Frank.
right, well, maybe that's something you and I should try to get done. Okay,
Okay, I'll put it on my Frank list to put on the town administrator list.
great. All right.
Okay.
All right, what else
But
we have?
meanwhile, if you want to make a motion for the bond,
Yeah, anybody want to do that? So what, can you just give us the reduction?
Yeah.
it was to go from 120 to 90. No, it was to reduce it by
By
90
90,000.
to
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
so
make
we're
a
still retaining 30,000, am I correct?
Correct,
That's-
which is more than enough to cover the couple of items that we have outstanding.
Yeah.
The signage and the vernal pool, according to them at least.
No, I'd make a motion that we reduce it in that amount.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Andy,
I have to recuse on Toll Brothers.
okay, and Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, me. Can I talk quickly on Turner Road?
You
And
can.
talk quickly is the big question.
I'm gonna try real quickly, okay. We did close the hearing on Turner Road, 126 Turner Road. But during that meeting, I made it clear that I did not like keeping the whole concrete driveway all the way down. They did give us mitigation, which they should give us no matter what. Because let's remember, step one, this was done. They knew they needed to come into Concom. They didn't file the paperwork. They went ahead, they had the concrete poured, and then they came to us and boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Anyways, I would like to, the orders of condition have not gone out yet. And we happened to be out at Collier Road, and Frank and I sent Andy the picture, and I sent it to Jen Smith at the office. Brendan saw it too. On Collier Road, in front of the fancy dancy house. He buried boulders and put rocks, smaller rocks in between, and it's a pretty level surface. So I would like to, in the orders of condition, let him keep the first half of the driveway as concrete, covering up his utilities, which actually come in the first quarter of the driveway. But I would let him come to the staircase down, and from there back, I would like to see these boulders. It's not cobble. It's Andy and Brendan saw it, and Frank saw it, and I saw it, and Amy. That I think this is what we should start to look at in these areas where they want a solid surface to some degree. But the water will definitely drain down here, and I don't see these boulders moving very quickly. They put the flat surface up, and I don't know, what do you guys think? The mitigation would still stay, because that should be for doing what they did without permission and getting half of the driveway concrete.
Well, I wish I had missed that meeting, and
Yeah, I know you were away.
and I would agree with you, Penny, that I'm not really thrilled about allowing them to leave that driveway the whole way down, especially after they were informed that they should be filing before they did it. So I'm just not sure procedurally now that you've closed and voted, if that's something we can do.
We
But
only voted to close. We didn't vote on orders yet because they haven't been written. We
Well,
did,
and now also I have 2 emails from Mr. Lance who wants to come in and meet with me in the office to discuss it. Because there was a revision to the plan because they gave us one version that I didn't think was consistent. And actually, and you guys commented on it too. And so
Oh, the
then they gave
mitigation.
another plan and now he wants to negotiate. So
uh-uh.
I don't know. We've already voted on it. So I'm not so sure the boulders is you can really go in that direction at this point in time. Actually, but
That has nothing really to do with the mitigation, though. I think you're wrong. The
well,
mitigation
if you
is
put
for what he
something in
did.
there that is not what you voted, you could be looking for him to appeal it.
Well,
and
he can, but we did discuss it, Amy. I made it clear at the last meeting that it should only be halfway down.
But that's not what was voted, though. So maybe we need to bring up the minutes and see what was voted. And meanwhile, I mean, I won't meet with him.
One at a time.
I won't meet with him to get anything going, but because I would like everything to play out on this meeting, and I don't think we should have negotiations without him being on the call.
Okay, but the orders have not been written. As far as I know, we voted to close. And what we decide for orders is amongst the commission.
It
And
was
as long as something
it
was-
was closed with a plan, though. It was closed with a pan. Yeah, I'd have to like get the minutes in front of me or whatever the wording. But it was closed with a plan of basically accepting a fence and mitigation on the left side of the driveway. I mean, Andy was chairing, so maybe Andy's recollection can serve us here too, but.
Well, I just know if something is mentioned, we can do what we want with our orders when it's time to write the orders. But I just think huge error if we let him get away. And the mitigation, that's not what we agreed to.
But what you're talking about is substantially different, though, than what you guys talked about at the meeting. So.
But it was still discussed. I don't know.
right.
Not in really in that
disagree.
regard, though.
Why
So I
don't-
think
Penny,
it's just
Penny, why don't
resolved.
it's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
Why don't
that's fine, Frank.
Amy and I can discuss this and see if procedurally, I don't want to make a mistake, and
No, I don't either, but I just,
I think
know-
I think your point's well made.
yeah,
Let's put it that way.
okay, thank
All
you.
The
right.
next one, it's a great idea.
All right, well, let's before we go, all
Well, there's no, yeah.
right.
Never
Okay.
mind. Okay,
Let's-
I make a motion to adjourn. Good night, all.
Anybody else want to add to that?
I'll second it.
There we go. All in favor, Andy
Yes.
and Brandon.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks all so much.
Good
Have
night.
a great
Good
evening.
job,
Have a good
everyone.
night, guys.
Thank you.
Night.
Take it easy.